recently two figures showed up that I had pre-ordered that I had also pre-bought in my mind. In other words, I was buying these figures regardless of when they came out. They were on a virtual checklist. Well, actually, no, I do actually write it down in my book of things. But yeah, both Doctor Strange and Sleepwalker arrived. Now, as far as Doctor Strange, besides the fact that I really liked him as a comic book character when I was a kid, the movie hit exactly me in the middle of the right fandom, and that was of Benedict Cumberbatch in Sherlock on BBC. And this isn't, some kind of Johnny-come-lately thing. I'm a Sherlock fan. I mean, not just of the BBC show, but I've been reading and enjoying and collecting Sherlock stuff for a long time, and I can even double down with a Jack Ryan lifelong friend or lifelong collector of Sherlock, because yep, that's me, 7th grade, 8th grade, and starring in the school play production of A Scandal in Bohemia. So yeah. Anyway, the point is, yes, so I was obviously a big fan of the actor, and this was basically Sherlock Holmes with superpowers and magic. I mean, it was the same character, because, most actors do, and actresses kind of tend to play the same character in every role. So it was basically Sherlock with magic. And since the first figure was so off model, I decided, you know what, I'm actually going to plunk down some money, and I got the Fig Arts like $99 figure with the flame on effects. They worked great with my Pyro and Human Torch figures later on, didn't need them, but the figure, definitely an upgrade. And I was like, all right, perfect. I've upgraded to a perfect Doctor Strange figure. Don't need any more, and we're awesome. So that's great, and I have the most expensive standard 6-inch figure I own, and hey, I've got one. It's going to be a character I like a lot. Well, another figure came out in a 3-pack and totally passed on it. It was the same figure as before, the body just with a new head, and it was still off model in terms of the cape, didn't need the head, so passed. But then when the Spider-Man No Way Home version came out, and I saw what an improvement it was as far as a standard 6-inch, and hey, $22, I can do that. So I picked that one up, and yeah, especially when you look at the height, it was a better figure. And with my happiness with that figure, I easily plunked down $22 a few months later and bought the Doctor Strange Madness Multiverse figure, and really excited that it would be yet another upgrade. And that's why it shocked me so much that this figure wasn't just an upgrade, but, well, let me get into the details here. Most Marvel Legend figures with capes, not all, but have a plug in the back, a hole and a T that plugs into it. A lot of times I'll glue this. I'll glue the peg, put it in, that way you don't see the glue, and it just holds it in place. But at least the peg helps. The problem here is with this Doctor Strange, there's no peg. There's no anything, and the cape just falls right off every time you pick him up. To me, that is kind of like a game stopper, if you will. Like a cape that it just slips on him, and it doesn't even, there's no straps, there's nothing in front, there's no peg in the back, there's no hole for a peg, on the cape, etc., etc. And I don't know, I was really surprised, because it seemed like with all the previous ones having the peg option, or at least slipping over his head completely, like the very first movie version, it does work if you're just displaying him perfectly, absolutely. But the moment you pick him up, like every time, the cape just right off. And to me, it's one of my toy pet peeves. So while I've definitely bought more Doctor Strange live-action character toys than I expected to, for the most part, I've always gotten a really nice upgrade. And the cape thing, man, I don't know. Maybe in the movie it levitates like that, but to me, it's like this is like an immediate dismissal. It's like whoa, the cape doesn't even like balance on the figure. I'm sure have I done this? I don't think I could say I've done this with any figure I've worked on. I've really make sure those capes always stay on. Maybe someone will prove me wrong. Maybe I did. All right, well, let's move on to the figure that blew it out of the water for me, which was unexpectedly Sleepwalker, a character that looked like he could have just been a repaint of Hobgoblin, and a lot of us, myself included, the introduction to him was kind of the Marvel trading cards. But for myself in particular, he shared the rookie slot not just with X-Force, but with Darkhawk, who was my first obsessive-compulsive for superhero-dom before I fell for Savage Dragon and the other characters. But yeah, Darkhawk was going to be my guy, and he was for, 91 and 92. It really was an awesome comic. He wasn't just, a Spider-Man ripoff that fought all of Spider-Man. Okay, bad example. But he was his own character. He was awesome. And then they just like kept changing him. Well, Sleepwalker, to me, he was just sort of Darkhawk's, came out at the same time. They were sort of like same class, if you will, class of 91. And the only Sleepwalker issues I own, surprise, surprise, are the ones where Darkhawk shows up as a guest star. I pretty much, yes, I was obsessive compulsive, and if Darkhawk showed up in a comic book in the early 90s, I bought it wanting to have every single appearance of the guy ever, because that's what we all do. We're obsessive compulsive. Just put in the property or character and make it interchangeable, and now you've described most adult collectors out there. All right. I don't know what you're talking about, obsessive compulsive. Okay, so yes, Sleepwalker was part of Darkhawk's universe, so that's why Sleepwalker was sort of like a pre-buy for me, because I love Darkhawk, and I'll buy anyone related to him, even if it's just a guest star in the same class. So you can see, yes, some Hobgoblin parts, got reused, but, original gloves and boots and that extra piece on the leg. Not to mention, the hood I thought was a reuse. I was like, oh, it's probably just Doctor Doom's hood or, Hobgoblin or something. But no, it's like it's totally its own hood, which is fantastic. And, yeah, it really, I don't know, he's just a very impressive figure. And not totally on model for the 1991 version, but, it's dang awesome. Dang awesome? I'm going to just go with dang awesome. So for Sleepwalker fans, you finally have your classic 90s Sleepwalker, and I'm sure you've been waiting so long. And that's why I'm going to harp one last time for you 90s Darkhawk fans, because this figure doesn't do it. This is not 90s Darkhawk. This is not the one we had as kids or teenagers or whatever. It's this one, and I'm going to go out on this image. I'm not even going to go to a share this time. I'm just going to close on this image of Darkhawk in case this happens to make its way, I don't know, to Hasbro designers, somebody who has influence over there. We need this figure. Okay. And, yeah, capes need to stay on, because when they fall off, it's no fun. All right, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and don't forget to comment. I always comment back, or at least I try to.